In a world shifting by the second, where truth hides behind headlines, one voice dares to go deeper. Welcome to Lee Breaking News, where every story is a revelation, every headline a doorway to hidden realities. This is not just news, this is vision. This is the voice of the times.
They said the sun would rise like it always does, but today, it rose through smoke. Not the smoke of progress, not the smoke of industry, but the smoke of rage turned digital, tribal, and weaponized. Somewhere between the deserts of ancient prophecy and the control rooms of modern warfare, humanity has pressed its lips once more against the rim of extinction and drinks deep. They call it Operation Rising Lion. But the lion does not rise by strategy or decree. The lion rises because it remembers what it is. Even after centuries of being chained in temples, crushed by thrones, dissected in labs, and pixelated into myth. The lion is not a metaphor. It is a mirror. And today, it roared. But it did not roar from its mouth. It roared from the scream of missiles in the black night, from the silence of broken families beneath crumbled roofs, from the blinking light of satellites watching blood dry in 8K resolution. It roared from the memory of empires past, all of whom thought they could contain the infinite hunger of meaning within the fragile skeleton of borders. Israel and Iran are not just names. They are archetypes, symbols, old gods wearing new flags, retelling ancient scripts written in the language of paranoia, promise, and prophecy. And as they clash, the world does not merely watch. It remembers. It remembers the Crusades not as chapters in a textbook, but as scars in its collective limbic system. It remembers Babylon not as ruins, but as unresolved karma. It remembers the Tower of Babel not as fiction, but as foreshadowing. Because once again, humanity has chosen to speak with fire instead of language, to calculate instead of commune, to engineer fear rather than empathy. And so it builds new towers of drones, of data, of doctrine, each higher than the last, each more disconnected from the earth it rises from. Look deeper, and you'll see that this is not a war between two nations. It is a war between two timelines. One accelerating towards singularity, the other clawing towards survival. One dreaming of clean AI, quantum supremacy, and space colonization. The other dreaming simply of dignity, of protection, of a future not dictated by coordinates, but by conscience. And between those two dreams, a question stretches its shadow across the globe. Will we evolve through compassion or through catastrophe? Each missile launched is not just metal. It is memory turned into momentum. It is an algorithm pretending to be justice. It is the product of minds more educated than enlightened. And the ones pressing the buttons may wear suits or... Somewhere in Tehran, a mother counts the seconds between sirens, her hands trembling not just from fear, but from remembering her own childhood under the same sky. Somewhere in Tel Aviv, a father whispers prayers into the ears of his daughter, hoping the sound will be louder than the incoming thunder of retaliation. They do not hate each other. They do not even know each other. But they have been inherited into a war authored by voices older than themselves, voices they never questioned, voices that claim to protect while feeding them to history's furnace. And yet, even now, the universe offers a different frequency. The earth hums beneath all of this, a song too subtle for radar but too ancient to ignore. It says, "You are not enemies. You are echoes." Echoes of the same silence before the first bang. Echoes of the same star stuff, coded with consciousness, wired for wonder, but wonder is a dangerous thing in an age of control. Wonder leads to questioning, and questioning shatters illusions. That is why power prefers war. War is simple. War is binary. War divides and in division, the powerful remain unchallenged. Operation Rising Lion may be the beginning of a new chapter. But which book are we still writing in? Is it the one written by those who believe we must burn to be reborn, or the one whispered by those who know we can remember our divine design without destruction? Because make no mistake, the technology has evolved, the weapons are smarter, the satellites see everything. But the soul of man remains vulnerable, not because it is weak, but because it still hopes. And in a world that monetizes outrage, hope is the most radical act. There will be more headlines, more numbers, more cold language wrapped around hot blood. But beneath every statistic, a story trembles. Of a child who now dreams in sirens, of a doctor who no longer believes in healing, of a soldier who wonders if honor can survive algorithms. The lion has risen, yes, but it does not know who woke it. Was it justice? Was it revenge? Was it simply the inertia of a species that cannot stop reenacting its own extinction? And still, we watch. Not with eyes, but with ancient instincts. Because somewhere inside we know this isn't just about geopolitics. It's about the threshold, the moment just before the mirror cracks, the breath just before the leap, the silence just before we decide whether to become gods or ghosts. And maybe that is why the skies burn again. Not to destroy, but to demand. To demand that we look up not with fear, but with fire in our minds. Because somewhere beyond this war, beyond these nations, beyond these names, a new story waits to be told. One not written in missiles or mandates, but in meaning and memory, and the courage to imagine a world that does not need lions to roar, only hearts to remember and to rise.